So here's a sort of part three to the continuing connection between Nabu, Mercury, Moses, some of these characters, and the functions that they all fulfill within these mystery rites. As stated within my video, it was either Horn to Moses, so the addendum that I did for it already, where I made several connections demonstrating this horned theme in ancient Mesopotamia, this Mercurian theme, and how it flows down through ancient mystery rites as a part of the original Dionysian worship that ultimately seems to be coming from the Pelasgians, like the proto Mycenaeans from ancient Minoan Crete. Sorry, the Mycenaeans, and then further back to the Minoans in ancient Minoan Crete. So the Pelasgians were said to be the individuals that came from eastwards out of Anatolia, keeping in mind that Egypt, Sumer, and Anatolia had this sort of ancient triumvirate going on in the old world. So what I'm going to show here or what I'm going to attempt to do here is to demonstrate some more of these solar connections and some of the individuals that are associated through Moses etymologically, and how they connect to the mystery rites themselves. Mithraism being the one that we still have access to, or it being really the overarching structure of mystery rites. It's just a kind of a colloquial term. All right, so we're going to pick up with Masu, the hero, keeping in mind that, I'll just read it. So, quote, yet another of these possible multiple meanings lies in the assertion by Seishi that Mashu or Masu, as found in the Babylonian tablets, was the same word as Moshe, Moses. Elsewhere, Seishi reiterates that in Hebrew, Moshe is most easily explained by the Babylonian Masu, meaning hero. The Assyriologist further elucidates Masu, hero, an epithet of several deities, especially Adar, Marduk, who is a Mercurian messenger god, the Logos, and the sun god, also a scribe or librarian, and in astrology connected with Taurus. Thus, in Babylonian, Masu would be a title of Shamash, evidently associated with Moses. Speaking of the Assyrian solar warrior god, legislator, and son of Bel, Adar, or Atar, also known as Urus, among other names, Seishi also comments, in the inscriptions of Nineveh, the title of hero god, Masu, is applied to him with peculiar frequency. This was the characteristic upon which the Assyrian kings more particularly loved to dwell. In Babylonia, on the other hand, Adar was by no means a favorite divinity. Here it was the milder and less warlike Marduk that took his place. The arts of peace, rather than those of war, found favor among the Semitic population of the southern kingdom. This deity, Adar, this is also a quote directly from Seishi. Okay, so this deity, Adar, represented the sun god primitively worshipped at Nippur, now Niffer in Babylonia, who afterwards came to be regarded as a sort of Chaldean Heracles. And that's a common theme, right? This is where, let me pull up Stellarium so we can better understand this Heracles connection. Okay, all right, so here, the reason that you always see Hercules somehow intertwined into the mix, if you're not familiar with the mystery rites. So as you can see here in the sky, right, you have an instance of astrotheology directly in reference to several biblical passages that find their way into the New Testament, flowing down directly from these mystery rites. But here, as I've alluded to and directly stated earlier, you have the metaphor, or the allegorical, rather, crossing of the Red Sea, which is represented here by the so-called center of the galaxy. That is in the heliocentric model, not mine. It is called the center of the galaxy, the universe. Well, no, center of the galaxy, right? Okay, so center of the galaxy, and it's right where Ophiuchus stands, the serpent bearer, who stands right on top of Scorpio. And this is the whole, like, biblical, you will tread on his head and he will sting your heel bullshit. And then you have Aquila, the eagle of Zeus, who eats the liver of Prometheus, who is displayed here by Ophiuchus. Right above here, you have Hercules, right above Ophiuchus, directly above Ophiuchus, who is known to shoot Aquila in the Promethean mythos, thus freeing Prometheus from the eagle in his eternal torture, bearing in mind that Prometheus was a prototypical Christ figure who came down to better the life of mankind and then continually died for his so-called sins. But Hercules is often syncretized with this character, right? This is why you have instances of like Eshmun Melkart being worshipped in ancient Phoenicia, because that's where a lot of this stuff seems to come from as well, is the Levant, right? Ancient Phoenicia in particular. These were the individuals that most often identified with later on with Carthage, right, and basically the empire that they had established. These people had a very widespread influence, and it's said that their alphabet is the one that was given to the Greeks, which then formed the basis of all modern alphabets. So there's your Mercury connection, right? But this Hercules figure, this warrior god aspect, this Masu, this hero that accomplishes his 12 heroic deeds or whatever have you. It's a common theme. These two are one and the same, right? It's just two faces of the same guy. So I was going to pull up the Relaxion de Assyriology again. I believe it's in there. There's a reference to Nabu. It's all in German anyway, so I mean, like, what the fuck, right? There's a reference to Nabu in there, specifically as a warrior god. I think it's like one of 7, if I'm not mistaken, which is classic. It's always like this 7, this reoccurring 7 number, and pretty funny. It's such a common theme that they even adopted this into Zelda, which is well known to be a Mithraic fucking nod, right? With his Phrygian cap and the whole Trinity and Triforce and the Hero of Time. They even incorporated this theme of like the 7 heroes, or the 7 sages, or the 7 spirits, or the 7 Ameshespenta, or the 7 archangels into the new Tears of the Kingdom game on some Stella. But that's the Eshmun connection, right? That's the other side of that. That's Asclepius. That's a Fucus. So let's go back to Stellarim real quick. So Eshmun, Asclepius, right? The Phoenician of Fucus, or the Phoenician Asclepius. And here I have a passage about him as well pulled up. All right, so this is from the origin of pagan idolatry. Okay, so we're going to start off right about here. So Quirinus, the daughter of Pelagius, was the mother of Asclepius, but Apollo, the raven, falsely accused her of infidelity, upon which the gods slew her in a fit of jealousy, but afterwards, discovering his error, he changed the color of the raven from white to black, by way of punishment for his malicious misrepresentation. This fable was wholly founded on a perversion of a part of the mysteries. The solar Apollo of the Greeks was the solar Mithras of the Persians. The raven was esteemed equally sacred to them both, and certain priests of Mithras were from that bird denominated ravens and holy ravens. Yet, in allusion to the circumstances which preceded the egress of Noah from the ark, the raven, though a sacred bird, was ever esteemed an ill-omened carrier of bad news, while the dove, from which the archite priestesses were themselves called doves, was reckoned highly propitious. With respect to Asclepius, he was a Phoenician or Indo-Scythic deity, and the whole, both of his history and genealogy, relates immediately to the deluge. He was worshipped in Berytus, so called from the ship Berit or Beris. His mother Coronis was the core, or sacred archite circle of the solar On. Like Attis or Bacchus, he was believed by the great mother of the Diluvian hero gods, whom the Phoenicians called Astarte or Ashtaroth, by Damascius written Hellenistically Astrone, and he was esteemed the youngest of the Kabiric Ogdode, and the son of Sadiq, or the just man. And that's, who is it, Melchizedek? Your Melchizedek? Melchizedek? Sanchuniathon informs us that he was denominated Esmuni, or the 8th, right? Because he's the 8th of the Ogdode. This is your Amon, or Amon Ra, right? Whenever fucking Christians clap their hands together and they say, Amen, Amen, right? Do you know who they're saying that to? They're saying that to Amon, Amon, as in Amon Ra, right? Amen. Okay, so that's Eshmun. That's Eshmun. He is the 8th. He is the completion to the circle, the 7 sages, the 7 Ameshespenta, the 7 archangels, right? He is like the culmination of the group. So that's how you have this Asclepian and Herculean and Mercurian figure all flowing into one. So here is a ritual incantation from ancient Mesopotamia which is referred to as the 21 poultices. And this is a translation of it, which directly associates Nabu with the earlier dying and rising god Muati, and through this connection with Dumuzid. So let's just read the incantation and see what it has to say. The 21 poultices. As Ea was in the river, house of peace, where the Mushush monster gathers eggs and gemstones. Pause there. The Mushush monster. Remember the connection between Moses also having an etymological derivation of serpent or viper or some such, right? Musa, Moses, Musa. So Nabu was the owner of the Mushu dragon, right? It's spelled a lot like Musa. It's spelled a hell of a lot like Musa. It's cognate to Musa. So, all right, continuing. Nabu went furiously before him. My son, why are you going about furiously? Where is the unreliable seed plant? Nedumid became angry and summoned the 7 sages. There they are. There they are. Nedumid became angry and summoned the 7 sages of Eridu in high tones. Bring the document of my anuship, that it may be read before me, that I may decree the destiny for Muati, the son who makes me happy, and grant him his desire. They brought and read the tablet of destinies of the great gods. He decreed the destiny for him and gave him, and Alilna, the purification priest of Eridu, made 21 poultices and gave them to him. Take them to the upper world, carry them with you, that the upper world may praise the heroic qualities of Nedumid, the magnificent father of the gods. May I be granted my desire, he will be granted it. Should he say, may I pursue my prosecutor headlong, he will pursue him. Should he say, may my prayers, petitions, and longings be pleasing before God and King, they will be pleasing. Should he say, may my prosecutor bear guilt, he will bear it. Should he say, may I shine like sunlight, he will shine. 21 poultices composed by Ea, which Nabu brought up from the river house of peace, where the Mushu monster gathers eggs and gemstones from the Apsu. He will attain his longings, he will prevail over his prosecutor, he will shine like sunlight. His God will receive his entreaties, his God will grant him the desires of his heart, and will take his part before Shamash, light of the lands. Alright, so further down, the synopsis. Let me find a good place to start here. Alright, so this passage here will discuss demonstrate the connection between Muati and Nabu. So starting right about here. Right here it says, in this setting of the Apsu, a god called Nabu in line 2, but Muati in line 7, is angry in Ea's presence, who, addressing him as my son, inquires the reason for the anger. This picture of Nabu in the Apsu is bizarre. First, Ea's son is so generally Marduk, and Nabu is either Marduk's officer or son. Secondly, though son can be used for any generation of male descent, it is unexpected in such a context, not referring to a physical son in the English sense of the word. Thus, one looks more closely at the names. Why Muati? According to late lists, this is the name of Nabu, but it is clear that originally they were distinct, Muati being spouse of Nanai, a goddess of Uruk, very similar in attributes to Ishtar, and at times even equated with her. In incompetently edited late copies, it is quite possible that an original Muati would be changed to Nabu, because that would be a simplification in terms of late scribal knowledge. The opposite, that an original Nabu got altered to Muati, is implausible, since that would be scribal virtuosity. Thus, Muati's relations to Ea need investigation. Little at all is known of him, but since his spouse is a kind of Ishtar, we could expect him to be a kind of Tammuz. The only plausible etymology of his name so far known, whether it be the original meaning or not, is, as always, incapable of being ascertained, and of little interest therefore, construes it as an archaic Akkadian infinitive absolute, Muati, dying, which would of course fit a type of Tammuz very well. It is further support for this case that he is told here to take the poultices with him to the upper world, since Tammuz regularly made that journey. Also, while Sumerian texts generally seem to know no father of Tammuz, an Akkadian Ishtar and Tammuz incantation makes him a son of Ea. So coming back to the Mithraic mystery rites, right, and this whole the reason that you see fucking Phrygian caps on like American coinage and all over the place on Smurfs and on Santa Claus and on magicians, and the connection with Mercury and the Raven, right? So the first grade of Mithraic initiation is the Corax, right? Remember Antares, that fixed star that I was talking about, the heart of the Scorpion, the principal star of Scorpion? It's known as the heart or the core in the ancient Shang dynasty of ancient China. Like, we're talking like 2000 BC, where they were worshipping Antares or using Antares as the start of the new year. It's referred to as the fire star, but also as the heart or core, right? I think specifically the burning heart, and I do have a source for that. All right, so this is 1995 Cook's etymology. Let's go back up to the top real quick. Back to the top. Trying to get better about, because no one's really good with ever showing sources, you know what I mean? The etymology of Chinese Chen, yada yada yada. Cook, Richard Sterling, 1995. Okay, so what we're focusing on is Antares. So here you have Heart of the Scorpion. Keep in mind, anti doesn't necessarily mean opposed to Aries. It means more like Aries, right? Remember Mars, Masu, Moses, right? It's like Aries in the proper context. Here it's being referred to as the Great Fire Star and so on and so forth. We're looking for the heart reference. The Great Fire Star began to be identified as the Great Chin Star. All right. At the summer solstice, the daylight is at its longest. Hence, it is said the sun eternal fire is the star name. It is otherwise known as the Great Fire or the Heart constellation. The star of fire refers to the fact that Antares, straight up in the southern sky, is at sunset. At sunset is indicative of the time of the summer solstice. From Jia and Shang straight on through Zhao times, the fire star was extraordinary among the fixed stars. It still is. I mean, the heliacal rising of Antares in modern day is Christmas. If you think it's a coincidence that the star that I'm talking about right now, its heliacal rising is on Christmas, okay? Like, I'm talking about this for a reason. All right, yada yada. Further on in there, they go on to establish the fucking obvious connections between Antares and the heart and the core. So this shows back up in the Corax and the association of the Raven with Mercury in the Mithraic mystery rites, right? Because you have to remember that Mercury or Hermes and Apollo are syncretized with each other at the very least all the way back to like the Parthian period of ancient Iran. It's the ruins, Nimrud. Head of Apollo, Mithra, Helios, Hermes. See this? Right, so these characters are all interconnected. This is Nabu, right? Mithridates is the first or is the sixth? Mithridates, the first of Parthia, same empire that I just alluded to. Mithra played an important role into the late Iranian Achaemenid Empire and continued to grow throughout the Greek Seleucid period, where he was associated with the Greek gods Apollo or Helios or the Babylonian god Nabu. And this is why the symbols of the first grade of Mithraic initiation in modern day symbolism is the raven and the caduceus. Alright, so, okay, I think that about sums up what I've got on that. So keep in mind, again, Antares' heliacal rising is currently Christmas. So, alright, there's some star lore and astrotheology.